and welcome into the Varsity Voices podcast presented by C Spire. This is our third quarter episode this week, as you know, we're changing it up a little bit. We got the usual crew here: Brandon Davis, the voice of the Warren Central Vikings. We got Jake Wimberly from the Brandon Bulldogs and the Hines Community College and ESPN 105.9. Of course, we got Caleb Hamill as our producer. And we will remind you that these third quarters are brought to you by Empower Rental Group, ERG. You deserve a better rental experience. RentERG.com. I tell you, I saw Mike from ERG last week. He was doing some Ethel support the Ethel volleyball team. I came up and talked to him, and he said, man, I talked to Jared Schatz today, and I said, man, I'm sorry. No, I apologize to him. I said, man, I'm sorry. And, we can talk about Jared because he's not here to defend himself, but that's what friends are for. But what we're here for is to continue our breakdown. Yesterday on the podcast, we had our playoff, whatever we named it, playoff predictor, percentage predictor that Jake Wimberly cooked up for. We did 7A, 6A, and 5A, kind of showed you who has the best chances to make the playoffs, and then at the end, it kind of gives you the best percentage for who's going to be the state champ. So today we're doing 4A, 3A, 2A, and 1A, looking at the smaller classifications because they do things a little differently. There's a little bit more of the districts than there are in the big ones. But, Jake, we'll throw it to you as we look at 4A, and I guess we'll start from the top down.
Yeah, from the top down, let's go through it. 4A, we're looking at, again, all, 4 teams make the playoffs, so there's only one team that will not make the playoff. You can go ahead and probably take South Pontotoc out of this. So Corinth, Tishomingo County, North Pontotoc, and New Albany will make the playoffs. Right now, it looks like, Corinth could be the leader in that region. Region 2, 4A, you've got 5 teams. You can probably take Moorville. And I say that, Moorville and Amory, they're going to battle this thing, and then Houston as well. So really the 2 teams that are kind of shoe-ins are Shannon and Itawamba Agriculture High School. And then you move down to Region 3, 4A. 5 teams again. You look at Clarksdale and Rosa Fort, both teams, and Senatobia teams that'll be in. So Ripley and Bahalia will battle it out for that 4th spot. You look at Region 4, 4A, Louisville. This is Breck's region. He knows this better than anybody. Greenwood and Kosciuszko. And then, of course, you've got Gentry and Yazoo County, who look like they will battle that one out for the end of it there. And it's probably going to be Yazoo County. Region 5, 4A, you look at this, Newton County and Choctaw Central. The model likes those 2 teams mightily to make the playoffs, as well as Leake Central today. And then you get down into, West Lauderdale and Northeast Lauderdale. Northeast Lauderdale looks to be the odd man out, at least today. Region 6, 4A, again, 5 teams: Morton, Forest, Richland, and Mendenhall look to be the teams. Raymond right now looks to be that odd team out. It would take some work for them to get in. And then 7, 4A, we're down at Columbia, South Pike, Macomb. Those are 3 teams that are the model heavily favors. Poplarville as well. Lawrence County, this is an 0-7 team. You can just about take them off. So it'll be those 4 teams in Columbia, South Pike, Macomb, and Poplarville. Pass Christian in Region 4, 8, 4A, along with Forest County, AHS. Those are teams the model likes. Also Greene County. Then we're down to Moss Point and Bay as well. And of course, Bay 0-6, you can probably take them out. When you look at the percentage, now this is where the model gets kind of funny and people will laugh. Rosa Fort and Columbia, the model likes those 2. Kosciuszko, Breck, it likes them better than Louisville, even though they, Louisville got the head-to-head there. You look at Corinth and Pass Christian. And then, of course, other teams like Macomb, North Pontotoc, South Pike, way on down the list here. But it's very interesting to see, and we'll see how the model moves as we, kind of comb through this thing. But, guys, open it up for thoughts on the 4A classification.
I was surprised with Clarksdale being so far down in the I'm at 13 there as far as percentage points, because we've talked about Clarksdale really good up in that region. And, of course, they're going to play Rosa Fort at the end of the year. So obviously that, kind of changed some things there. And surprising that, Columbia, who we've talked about a lot, who's just rolling through, not having problems with anybody, that thought that they would be an overwhelming favorite to be, number 1 to win the championship or make the championship. And then the Kosciuszko and Louisville, there with Louisville getting the win. It was a very close ball game, but with Kosciuszko being favored a little bit above Louisville, that was a little bit surprising to me. But anything else stand out to you guys?
Well, let me say this too real quickly. Point differential is one thing this thing goes into, and Rosafort and Kosciuszko both have really good point differentials. Both have scored a lot of points. Both have not given up a lot of points. And I think that's where the model is kind of flexing some of this as well. We know what Louisville can do, but I do think, call me crazy, this is not my classification to cover, but it looks on paper that this is still a wide open classification.
Well, it's wide open in some regards, but for others, I mean, this is going to be basically the do or die week for a lot of these teams on whether or not they're going to make the playoffs. Because I look at a team like South Pontotoc, they're facing off against their rival North Pontotoc, and whoever wins that one is going to have one win on the season. North Pontotoc still with an extra game in the region to play. If they lose that, then all of a sudden South and North Pontotoc have the same record, and South Pontotoc, if they got the win, would have the tiebreaker. There's just all kinds of little ins and outs here for who's going to make the playoffs, because only typically one team misses out here in these regions. But when it comes to top spots, as far as who's going to come out of it, man, the South is looking really good right now with some of these teams like Columbia, Macomb, Poplarville, Forest. Not to knock on Louisville and Kosciuszko. I mean, obviously they're going to likely be the big front runners out of the North. Corinth possibly going to make some noise as well. But it's going to be a fun race down to the South State and North State championships.
I think, you look at the South, I think it's Columbia's to lose. Patrick has probably the best quarterback. And other than Caden Wade and Kosciuszko, Patrick probably has one of the best quarterbacks in 4A. Really like the Trillion kid down on the coast. Morton, don't sleep on Morton. Zach Jones always does a great job with those kids. They're kind of overperforming this year. They're maybe a year or so ahead of schedule. They did beat Mendenhall a couple of weeks ago. So I like Morton. Really, the question to me, Caleb, is, all right, you got Columbia. Who's going to play them in the South State? Is it going to be Macomb? Is it going to be Morton? Maybe past Christian? Poplarville or, Ty Keys, best back in the state, maybe one of the best backs in the country. Are we going to see something out of them? And then, of course, the North. To me, looking at it, it's Louisville Kosciuszko. I think Kosciuszko gets it this year. I really do. They played them tough in the regular season the other night, and I really think this is a year for Casey Orr's bunch. But Senatobia and Clarksdale are sitting there, and even Shannon. That's going to be a big game this week. You've got Shannon playing Itawamba AHS. So, but yeah, 4A is so much fun. And when we have the state championship game, this is always one of the last type segment. If you want to watch a game, folks, where it's likely going to be a last minute field goal or a last play of the ball game to win it, it's going to be 4A because it's always wide open.
Yeah, I can think back a couple of years ago whenever Senatobia was playing Columbia. Whoever it was.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, down there in Southern Miss, and there was just a clanger off the upright that was the difference maker in that game. Game-winning field goal right there.
Poplarville won by a toe last year. Kid from Louisville didn't get his toe in on the last play, and so it was just usually the game that Jake calls that he has to leave for. That's the game.
Now, last year was 3A. He had the 3A one last year.
4A is crazy. It's always a crazy game. Like you said, it's wide open.
22 in Hattiesburg. Louisville kicks the field goal to beat Mendenhall right at the very end. Sugarfoot, lines up. He has to kick it twice, right? Somebody jumped off sides or something.
Right.
He had to kick two right there at the very end.
That was a Jake game, wasn't it?
I think it was a Jake game. But you were talking, Brandon, about Shannon. If things play out, how numbers look like they might, you could see a Kosciuszko Shannon in the second round again. That's what Shannon eliminated Kosciuszko last year in the second round. So you're looking at some things like that. But yeah, 4A is a lot of fun, really competitive. As I said, three-team race there in the South, Columbia, Macomb, and Poplarville. But in the North, you got, just to throw a dartboard at the 1 and 2 seeds, and even at some of the 3 seeds that could come out of there in 4A. But that's a look at 4A, and we got another one. Another usually very competitive one is 3A. And looking at this, of course, we've had some upsets here lately. We had the one, as we've talked about, that region with Winona beating Noxubee, Noxubee beating Choctaw County, and now Choctaw County and Winona playing this week. So 3A is sort of a fun one, Jake. And once again, we'll toss it to you to kind of break it down.
Yeah, when you go straight to the championship percentages here, Noxubee, it says 1%. I mean, watch that. That's going to move again. This is predicated on some data that will continue to churn. You look at Raleigh and then Union, McGee, Choctaw County, West Marion, Tylertown. I mean, this is a wide open field, I think, in 3A. And I think Brandon was interested in 3A when we started talking about this. But you look at, again, you go to 1-3A, Kossuth and Belmont, along with Boonville. You take a team like Mantachie, probably not going to be in, but they could be. I mean, they've been Alcorn Central will probably battle it out for that fourth spot. You look at Region 2 and 3A, only 4 teams in there: Independence, Coahoma County, North Panola, Holly Springs. Those teams will make it. Region 3 and 3A, Edwards, Humphreys County, along with Yazoo County, and then O'Bannon, Amanda Elsie likely. I mean, they're winless on the season, so they're going to probably pack it up. They will not make it. But then Region 4, you go back down again, kind of the same scenario. Nettleton does not have a win, so Noxubee County, Winona, Aberdeen, and Choctaw County would make it. Region 5, this one is a little more wide open. You've got a Union team that's really, really good. Then you got, Southeast Lauderdale, Quitman, St. Andrews, and Pisgah. They will battle out for the other 3. Region 6, we're talking McGee, and Raleigh, Seminary, JDC, and then McLaurin. McLaurin, the one team that is winless again, they're not going to be there. And then Region 7 with 5 teams. Crystal Springs is the one team that's winless. So Franklin County, Hazelhurst, Port Gibson, and Jefferson County will make it. And then Region 8 off the coast, St. Stanislaus and St. Patrick will probably fight for the 4th spot there, while West Marion, Presbyterian Christian, and Tylertown will make the playoffs. I think it's a wide open 3A, guys.
Yeah, I like that it favors Raleigh, which we've talked about a lot on here because we with the pedigree that they have there in Raleigh. But Union coming in at number 2. Union is a really good program. They have been, but them being number 2, and obviously what Jake said about Noxubee County, just kind of shocking to see them as low as they are. But as we found out, you can't count out Noxubee County with them getting the win over Choctaw County this past week. Brandon, what sticks out to you about 3A?
You know what scares me to death if I'm in 3A? If JDC makes it into the playoffs. I know y'all think I'm crazy, but they've had a rough year. But if they can get it together, they have a great coach in Lance Mancuso. I think they could make some noise depending on who they play against, and they get a win here or there and a little bit of confidence. But I do like Region 8, West Marion, Presbyterian Christian. Those two played each other this past week. PCS is a good team. I mean, they are a good team. We talked about the injury. Caleb kind of gave us an update a couple of one of our previous episodes about, the quarterback down there. He'd got injured, but, I might just see what happens. And Tylertown is a good quarterback as well. This is another one that's wide open. Was really interested because I had a coach tell me that Raleigh is a team that really the only team that can beat Raleigh are themselves. So that's why I was anxious to see what the model had to say about that based off the statistics here. And, that's what you're seeing. Raleigh is kind of leading the pack right now.
Can you imagine Raleigh and Union in a South State matchup?
Raleigh and a lot of teams, Caleb. I mean, West Marion, even Franklin County, there are a lot of teams out of the South. And, the North, Region 4, 3A, Choctaw, Winona, Noxubee, those really are probably more of your favorite to get there. I mean, I could see a 3-seed Winona making it, just how it all
Is
worked
it just
out.
me, or does Region 4 seem like it's stronger than all the other 3 regions, like every other team, like team for team, pound for pound? Could be any of those.
Your 4-seed, I mean, call me crazy, Jake, but, and no disrespect to all these other teams, but your 4-seed in Region 4 probably could win any of the other regions in the North.
Probably so. Yeah.
I agree. I think that we call it the SEC West of 3A football there. I mean, and you said we still got a good one this week between Choctaw County and Winona. They're gonna square off, which we're gonna talk about in our game previews when we get to that. But that's a good look at 3A on who's predicted has the best chance to be in Starkville at the first weekend of December. And if you plan on being in Starkville in the first weekend of December, then you go ahead and book your stay at the Hilton Garden Inn of Starkville, because that's the place to be. That's where we're going to be. And you never know who's going to show up, at one of our meetings when we get together. And so go ahead and make your plans to be with us there at the Hilton Garden Inn in Starkville that first weekend of December for the championships. So we're going to step aside for a break. When we come back, we're going to continue with the playoff predictor here on the Varsity Voices podcast presented by C Spire.
When your AC goes out, your sink leaks, or your breakers are tripping, you need help fast from someone you can trust. That's why we work hard to have the fastest service times and the most knowledgeable technicians in Central Mississippi. Our promise to you, at your door in under 24. So don't wait days for others to show up. Call Environment Masters for hassle-free plumbing, electrical, and AC. At your door in under 24, because it's not cool to make you wait.
Never settle when building or remodeling your home. You may think you can't afford brick, but you can. For less than $1 a day, you can own a full brick home. The money you save on painting, heating, and cooling costs, along with lower insurance, will put money back in your pocket. Go to CherokeeBrick.com to see how affordable brick really is. Spend less, save more on the look you want. Cherokee Brick. Life's just better with brick.
Genuine Mississippi, grown and raised and crafted, made. Genuine Mississippi.
Ashley will keep this one. Big hole up the middle at the 30, at the 20, at the 10. Kane Ashley with the pull and goes to the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles. Kane Ashley with his second big run of the night, and that's a huge touchdown for Kane Ashley and the Eagle offense.
And welcome back into the Varsity Voices podcast presented by C Spire here in our third quarter episode of the week, where we're talking playoff predictions or playoff percentage predictions. And we'll continue with the smaller classifications. 2A is where we will start. And much like 5A, Jake, I feel like, when we talked about 5A yesterday, it was West Point and everybody else. 2A almost, Jake, feels like Heidelberg and everybody else.
No, it really does. It's Heidelberg, as you said, and it's everybody else. And, you kind of look down through here. Heidelberg has the biggest chance to win the championship. Surprise, surprise, at least today at 22%. Then you get teams like Baldwin and Myrtle and J.C. George and Scott Central and Philadelphia. And you kind of go down through some of these, and again, you look at like Region 1, Baldwin, Hamilton, Hatley, and Walnut are all going to make the playoffs because there's 4 teams there. But then you get into Region 2, where you've got teams, like Myrtle and Bruce should be there, as Water Valley should be. So Strayhorn likely will battle it out with East Union. Charleston's a team that's sitting at 4-2. Northside's undefeated. Palmer is winless, so they are probably out, which opens it up for George. You look at Region 4, same thing there. You've got, 3 teams in East Webster, Eupora and Velma Jackson that are going to make the playoffs. And then Philadelphia is probably out at 0-7. So the Kemper County should get in. And then 5, 6, 7, and 8. I mean, kind of the same scenarios there where you've got teams like Lake in Region 5, as well as Pelahatchie that'll make it. And then Puckett, Scott Central, and Newton will battle it out for the, 3rd and 4th spot. Region 6, Bay Springs, Clarkdale, and of course Heidelberg in there as well. And then Enterprise, Clark, and Mize will battle that out. And then you get down to the, south portion of the state. Amite County, Lloyd Star, Wesson, they'll make it. Then Wilkinson County's probably out. They're winless. That would leave Enterprise Lincoln in. And then finally, down in on the coast region, East Marion, Sacred Heart, probably North Forest, and then Collins and Perry Central will battle it out. But I think it comes down to who will play Heidelberg in Starkville, and will they even have a shot in that ballgame? And I hate to be that candid, but we know how good that team is.
Yeah, and that's just, if they can have any games between now and then, because everybody seems to be canceling on them. But that's a whole other story. We won't get into all of that. But yeah, Heidelberg in the South, and I know a team that Brandon Davis has been high on. That's East Webster here in the north portion of the state. They got a chance to meet Heidelberg there.
I was about to say that, Breck. You read my mind. East Webster or Baldwin, I think, are two teams that could play Heidelberg and beat them based off their style of play. Just they can slow the ball game down and keep the ball out of Chase Craft's hands. So one of those two teams, I think, would be, could really make some noise. Northside, anxious to see what they do. They have Charleston this week. We're going to find out a little bit more about them, what they're like. Usually those Delta teams that they struggle, they've made it, like Northside have made it to the state title games, but they struggled getting there based off of strength of schedule in the regular season. But love East Webster, really do. Baldwin, like I said, they're a bunch of dogs up there as well. So I think one of those two teams could make some noise and give Heidelberg all they wanted.
Yeah, we can't sleep on Wesson, though, down there in 2A South. The Cobras are off to an 8-0 start this season. Strength of schedule may not be as much as some of the others, like a Heidelberg or maybe a Water Valley from the north, but this is a team you cannot sleep on. And I know Heidelberg won't if they get to match up with them in the playoffs, but I do think Heidelberg is the strongest team coming out of 2A right now, but I'd like the odds of Baldwin and East Webster matching up against them come the state championship. I think those are my two front runners from the north side.
And I love Lloyd Starr. They've got Jordan Keys, a 2,000-yard rusher from last season. He's on track for that again this year. They're stout on defense. That was a game, man. I wish I'd have been at that game down Wesson and Lloyd Starr a couple of weeks ago. If those two get back up in the playoffs, hopefully we're still playing. But if we're not, I would probably go to watch that game because those two, they laid it all out there. So, yeah, anxious to see who plays Heidelberg for the South State. I hate to be that person, but I think it's reality, as we all know.
Yeah, and obviously Baldwin, the defending 1A state champ. So they were champs last year, moving up in classification this year.
Yeah, only loss for them is Boonville, right?
Yes,
I believe so. Yeah, that's right. That sounds right. But speaking of 1A, we will take a look at 1A. And Jake, once again, kind of similarly with Heidelberg and West Point, it feels like 1A is Calhoun City and everybody else.
They have scored the most points in 1A, right at 300. When you look at the 8 regions, and as far as defense is concerned, now Simmons is down there at 6-0. They've only given up 34 points this year, but Calhoun City right there at 84 points they've given up. So a lot of regions here. I won't talk through all the regions because a lot of these regions do have 4 teams that'll get in. All 4 teams. You'll have some like Region 8 where they have 5 teams, and you look at a team like Resurrection that's probably not going to make it, or a Mount. The thing is, like Mount Olive, they will make it. They're winless in Region 7, but there's only 4 teams with Bogachetta, Salem, and West Lincoln in that one. So that I think you're right, Breck. The question is Calhoun City, and then who can give them their best game? Maybe deep into the playoff bracket, or even in a championship matchup in Starkville.
And one region that I've talked about a lot recently is Region 5, 4A, or 1A with Netawaya, Ethel, Leake County, Knox, Depater, Sebastopol, and McAdams. And as I've said, that's a region where two good teams going to be sitting at home. And you had, McAdams and Ethel who kind of rolled through it. And then McAdams is kind of run into a little bit. They're 0 for there, so they might be on the outside looking in. You got Ethel and Netawaya this week playing for potentially the 1 seed there. But Leake County, if you look at them overall, they were 3-5 overall. Their out of conference schedule was just brutal. And then you get into district play, and they take Netawaya, the district favorite, to overtime. They shut out Ethel, who's second in the region, and they got a big one this week. So yeah, that's a region that's still got a lot to kind of play out right there. But Region 5, this is in the south. Obviously, we know Calhoun City's in the north, and maybe Brandon, I know a team that you were looking at is like a Biggersville in the north that's got a good chance.
Love Bakersville. Zay Mays, quarterback, athlete, running back, whatever you want to call him. He drives a bus, 2,400 yards on the season so far, 32 touchdowns. Biggersville's a team that I like a lot. I think a lot of people forget about them. They're all the way up almost to Corinth, just south of Corinth. So they can give Calhoun City a run for their money, but I think that's probably about it. Like you said, I like Nanawaya, but they being in the south, it's kind of odd, Nanawaya being in the south part of the state where they're located.
Simmons as well.
Simmons as well. Yeah, Hollandale is considered the south. So, yeah, it's 1A is very weird when it comes to location, classification, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, and it really kind of waters down, I would say, 1A North, if you think about it, because you really only have those two front runners of Biggersville and Calhoun City. Nobody else really draws my attention, when it comes to that. But the south portion of these regions, there's a lot of options when it comes to who you could pick to come out of that. I mean, Nanawaya sitting 3-0 in region play, 5-2 overall. Ethel 6-2 overall. You get down to some of the other regions. Simmons still undefeated at 6-0 this year. And don't look now, guys, but Taylorsville is starting to figure things out. They're 2-0. Could be an undefeated conference run all the way up until their Lumberton matchup at the end of the regular season. So I don't know who will get the top spot out of that. Doesn't really matter because both them and Taylorsville, Lumberton being that other team, likely to finish 1-2 and obviously make the playoffs. But it could be a fun race to watch who finishes out in 1A South. I'm looking forward to seeing that and who will match up with either, we expect, Biggersville or Calhoun City at the top.
Yep, Taylorsville is one of the hottest teams in the state. They started 0-4 and they're 4-0 in their past 4 games, and they've really flipped the switch. So right on, Caleb. I agree with you on that. Let's see what the Tartars could do.
They call it Title Town for a reason, right? They were the only, when we did our top programs of all time, our very first episode, Taylorsville was the only 1A team there in the top 10. And so, if they're down, they're not going to be down for long. But there's a look at 4A, 3A, 2A, and 1A when it comes to playoff predictions and, percentages, what the numbers say. We obviously like what the numbers say. Then we kind of give all of our picks, so we don't, we don't want it to be all about the X's and O's and the ones and the zeros, but we do like to see what the computer rankings like to say, and then give our own input. But that does wrap up this third quarter episode of the Varsity Voices podcast. And so we'll be back with you tomorrow to give you our week 9 preview. And of course, you might be asking, we haven't talked about what's on Brandon Davis's whiteboard yet. Well, that's coming up tomorrow as well, because we know we got a lot of love about all the hair from last week. Folks were loving all the conversation about the mullets and everything else. So this one we got a good one this week as well. But for Brandon Davis, Jake Ribberly, and Caleb Hamill, I'm Breck Riley signing off from the Varsity Voices podcast, presented by C Spire.